What's that smell?
Oh, that would be me. I've been swimming in raw sewage. I love it. I love it. That's the signal. Let's go. Do it.
Welcome to this bonus episode of Trimming the Musical Fat. I'm Paul Nicholson.
And I'm Stephen Nicholson.
And together with our guests, over the next 30 minutes or so, we'll be talking a little bit more about the subject of our previous full episode, Guns N' Roses' Use Your Illusion 1 album. Listen as each of us reveals the track listing for their own version of the album and explains their track choice and sequencing. We reminisce about previous Guns N' Roses concerts we attended and recall some of the funny stories from them. And we talk about what we expect from the forthcoming Guns N' Roses concert we have tickets to. Welcome back, Paul Murphy and Brian Borthwick. How are you today?
Very good, thank you. Very, very good.
That's
Thank you
good.
for having me.
Yes, very
How
well.
are you, Brian? Good. Well,
I'm
thanks
very well,
for
thank
joining
you.
us today.
Thanks for having me back.
Brian, can you talk us through your
Hello.
own selection and reasoning for the placement of the songs on the album?
Yes, well, my
Yeah.
first song is
Go ahead.
Right Next Door to Hell, which was the opener
Mhm.
originally on the album anyway.
That's right,
And,
yes.
It's just a classic opening song, up-tempo, and Don't Damn Me, which I thought was another sort of up-tempo, keep the beat up there. After that, we went to a classic single, Live and Let Die, and fourth song, we slowed the tempo down to Don't Cry, another single.
Mhm.
And after that, we had Perfect Crime. So again, raising the tempo a bit there, mixing it up a bit. After that, we had Double Talking Jive,
Don't
another
repeat the next
up-tempo
line
song.
after it.
And then from there, we went to November Rain. Again, another single, a long song. So from that, totally different into Garden of Eden, short 2-minute 40 song. And to end it all off, my favourite Guns N' Roses song, Coma, which I think ends the album perfectly.
Ends the album as we know it as well, the original album.
It does,
doesn't it?
yeah.
Coma.
Good,
Yeah.
good choice by them.
Yeah. That's right, yes.
Yeah.
They've obviously knew what you were going to choose.
Yeah.
Thanks for that. Thanks for that, Brian. It'll be interesting to
You're
hear what other
welcome.
people's sequencing of the tracks is. And
Yeah.
what would you give the sequencing that you chose for the album? What would you give that album out of 5?
Out of 5. I would give it a 4. 4 out of 5.
Okay. Thank you,
Yeah.
Brian.
No
And we'll
problem.
now move on to Paul Murphy. So the same thing for you, Paul, if you could talk us through your selection and the reasoning behind the sequencing of the songs.
Yeah, so I've gone with my selection. I've tried to go for more of a rockier sort of focus, kind of a bit more like maybe like along the lines of Appetite for Destruction. I know that Use Your Illusion 2 was supposed to be a bit more of the slower sort of ballads type of thing. So I've tried to focus on a bit more of that side of it, the actual more rockier stuff. And I think with, when you're listening to it again as a sort of sequenced album like this with less songs, actually it's the first time I think I said last time, it's the first time I've listened to this in years because, the original album, Use Your Illusion 1 is 16 songs in 1 hour, and like 1 hour,
right.
16 minutes or whatever. Really uses up
76
almost a
minutes.
whole CD, and it's quite daunting just to look at it. So I started off with Right Next Door to Hell as well, because I think it's a great intro. Actually, I think listen to it now, it sounds a bit like Velvet Revolver, a bit. It's a little bit punky, it's nice, fast tempo. And then the next song I've gone into is Perfect Crime. It's the second song, and that's kind of on the original album. That's so some of these songs that I sort of talk about kind of got a bit lost in the original album. So Perfect Crime, we've gone for the next one again. Up tempo, it's short and sweet. A bit of bad language in there as well, so that's good. Sort of reminded me a bit of thinking back to AC/DC as well. That sort of. And then next, I've gone with Dust and Bones. And I think because it slows it down a little bit, again, it's a song that's kind of maybe a bit lost on the original album, but slows down to a nice pace. It's, I mean, I think with some of these songs as well, as it maybe shows, you know, Guns N' Roses expanding their rock roots a little bit. This is maybe a bit like boogie rock or something like that from the 70s. So, you know, it shows that they're expanding their musical taste of rock just a little bit more than, you know, because maybe with Appetite for Destruction, it's kind of a bit, you know, you listen to it now and it is of that time, really. So next up, I've got The Garden. And The Garden, listening to it, I think what, again, is interesting in this is that, actually, I mean, when you listen to it, it sounds a bit like early 90s alternative, American alternative music. But, you know, like other songs on the album, like maybe November Rain and Live and Let Die, you know, it sounds almost a bit like an 80s sort of glam rock metal band sort of thing, whereas The Garden is, you know, it's sort of like early 90s alternative, and I think it keeps it a bit more contemporary of its time. Because I think what we're talking about,
Alice
Nevermind.
Cooper was on it as well, of course. Yeah.
Nevermind, I think, was released, was that a week after Use Your Illusion? A couple of weeks after it?
Around the same time, yeah.
Yeah. And so I think it's when you listen to, you think about Guns N' Roses and Use Your Illusion, and like Nevermind seems very different, but actually, I think if you're looking on the more the rockier stuff, it kind of does show that they were expanding out a little bit. And then, so ending my first side is Bad Obsession. Again, it sort of sounds like sort of 70s rock and roll, sort of maybe a bit like, you know, the Black Crowes were like in the early 90s or something like that. And I think it's a good end to side one. So that's side one. That takes me to 21 minutes. And so starting off in side two, got opening of Bad Apples. And I think this is sort of sounds more like, you know, the Guns N' Roses that of old. Sounds a little bit like Welcome to the Jungle in a way. Listen to it. I mean, not as good, but yeah. And then got Don't Damn Me next. Again, it's like it's a good punky sort of song. Dead Horse after that, and I think that's quite interesting. Again, it's a bit alternative 90s. It starts off a bit slow.
Starts off slow, doesn't it?
Yeah. And so like when you're starting listening, you're like, oh, is this going to go anywhere? And then it builds up, and it maybe a bit of a stadium rock song, but yeah, I think it's actually it's again one of those songs that maybe got lost a bit on the original album because it was like the second last song, wasn't it? So and then next I've got Back Off Bitch, which has got a great Slash intro, really good guitar intro on it. Again, similar to sort of classic Guns N' Roses sound. And then last song on the album is Don't Cry, which I think is a brilliant end to the album, and it's a great single. So yeah, I've sort of focused it more on those sort of rockier songs and maybe trying to use it to showcase them expanding their rock roots. And that brings me to a total of 10 songs in 45 minutes. So that's like over 30 minutes has been cut off of the original album.
30 minutes of fat taken from it, yeah.
And I think I don't have November Rain on there, and I think although it's a good
I was
song,
just noticing that, I
think it's more suited to Use Your Illusion 2. It does feel a bit like it has maybe been added on to sell the album because there isn't quite as many strong singles on it. Because I mean, the three singles from it were Don't Cry, Live and Let Die, November Rain. You know, one of which is a cover. Yeah. So yeah, maybe we wouldn't have had as strong singles from it. So it does feel a bit. I do feel like November Rain should have been on Use Your Illusion 2. Does sort of stand out a little bit on it to me, so that's why I don't have.
Yeah, it was a more commercial album. Yeah, the second one. It'd be interesting to know the reasons behind the actual why the sequencing was as it was. You know, one day maybe the band will tell us. It'd be quite interesting.
Yeah, I mean, like,
And what would you give it out of 5, Paul?
yeah,
Sorry.
yeah. So out of 5, I would give it. I think I give it 4 out of 5. But even listening to it a couple more times since we did the last podcast, it's growing on me. And it's a bit easier to listen to now. I think the songs are mostly maximum length, about 5 minutes, so it's a bit easier to go back to and listen to. There isn't any huge length songs on it, so I think it's a bit of a grower. But I'll give it 4 out of 5 just now.
Okay, and I'm going to do my selection now. So I thought it'd be a bit different actually, and do the opposite of. I put actually the last track on the album, on the official album. I put that first as the opener, and I think it's the best song on the album, Coma, and I think as well it's it's a long song, so it wouldn't be an obvious song to start off the album, but I kind of think back to like some great albums that do start off with stuff that's maybe not seen as traditionally a great opener. You know, you think you got Station to Station, David Bowie, which was like about 10 minutes, Elton John, Funeral for a Friend, you know, the quite long songs as well. So I actually thought I'd put Coma first actually to start off. And the next song, Right Next Door to Hell, I put that second just to keep up the, almost like a concert. You keep going quite fast at the start. And I can imagine Right Next Door to Hell being an Appetite for Destruction, actually. I can imagine that being on there. And third track is You Ain't the First, which I know is one of Brian's favourites. And I put this on just to slow things down a bit and take a bit of a chill.
I think Brian just walked out again.
He won't be the first.
Yes, I'll disagree with your choice there.
Yeah, that's okay, Piers Morgan. So yeah, I just felt like You Ain't the First. It's not a brilliant song like you talked about earlier, but I just think it helps the flow of the album just to kind of quieten it down a bit. And then move on to Dust and Bones, which is a kind of feels like a middle song. It's in between, somewhere between heavy and soft. So I thought that would be a good song to build up the momentum back to the end of the first side. And then The Garden, which is a really good song, and obviously it features Alice Cooper, and it's quite, like Paul was saying, it is quite modern sounding for the time. Because I think the problem now, when I think back at Guns N' Roses, although it was 1991, it's still very 80s, really. A lot of it still feels in the 80s. And Nirvana feels like almost a generation away, you know, from what Nirvana were doing, even though these came out similarly. I see Nirvana as more... but anyway, that's for another day, that. And then first side with Don't Cry, which is a brilliant single, and certainly up there being my favourite Guns N' Roses song. And it just shows another side to them as well. That and actually, I was excited about the albums coming out because Don't Cry was a single at the time, I think, just before they came out. So it was quite exciting, you know, having two great singles before the Use Your Illusion albums came out. And then next track would be Live and Let Die, which talked about before, isn't as good as the original, but it's a decent version, and I feel it's one of the more standout tracks on the album as opposed to a lot of the filler. And then Double Talk and Jive, which I love the end of the song, the slash guitar. Garden of Eden, which is my penultimate song on the album. I just think that's a really brilliant, almost punk sort of song that, yeah, it could have been on Appetite for Destruction, but feels a bit more modern sounding maybe than the songs on Appetite. And then finishing with November Rain, just thought it would be good to have a sort of epic number to close the album. Started off with an epic number, and I thought I'd close off the album with November Rain, which I think we talked about earlier on about how it does sound a bit dated now because of all the synthesizers and stuff at the time. But the core song, is a great song. Okay, and I would give it 4 out of 5, which is keeping in the trend of what everybody else has gave as well. Okay, Stephen, and what about you? What's your sequencing and tracks for the album?
Okay, well, I'm going to go for the clean sweep of rating the albums 4 out of 5, because I would rate mine 4 out of 5. I've got 10 songs on mine and clocking in at just under 50 minutes. And like some of the other guys today, I have sequenced mine very much like a concert playlist where you want to have a fast start, keep the energy going, take a breather, pick up the pace again. So that informs very much the first side of my version of the album. So, like a lot of you, I have went with Right Next Door to Hell as the first one. Kick down the door, let's get the party started. After that goes, I want to keep the energy going, keep that mosh pit moving. So I'm going to go with Garden of Eden. So at that point, we've had about 6 minutes of kind of full-on rock and roll. So we ease it down slightly with a bit more, put on our dancing shoes and into a bit more of a boogie, Rolling Stones type vibe with Bad Obsession. And once that's done, we need to take a breather. So we'll go with our first ballad, and that's Don't Cry. After that's done, we want to pick up the pace again. So we get the Matt Solomoni's drums. We're going with Double Talking Jive, and we take a little breather again after that one, and we put away the electric guitars for a moment, get the acoustics out to play Brian's favourite song of all time, You Ain't the First. So we do that one, and then to end the first side of the album, we want to pick up the pace again with a popular song, and we go with Live and Let Die. So we end that side of the album with a bit of a blast. We then flip it over and we go a bit more Pink Floyd, and I only actually have 3 songs on my side too. And the first one is, in fact, 2 of the songs on this side are 2 of my all-time favourite Guns N' Roses songs. The first one's November Rain, so you're going for real classic, long, epic ballads. After that, I go into the second song on side 2, which is as it is on Use Your Illusion 1, November Rain finishes, then it goes into The Garden, and I think it actually flows quite well between those 2 songs. So we'll go with The Garden, and then we'll ramp it up to the end with, maybe my second favourite Guns N' Roses song, Coma. So yeah, as the original album ended, that's how I finished my one there. And very much like those 10 songs, and maybe on another day I'd give it 5, but today I'm saying 4.
So that's interesting that we've all picked 4 for all our selections. We gave the rating as 4, so that's quite interesting. I wonder how it would be for the second one. We'll maybe do the second one at a later time, but yeah, second Use Your Illusion.
Yeah, that would be good actually.
Yeah,
that would be good. I'd like to revisit that one. For me, that would be much harder to do the second one, because as part of preparing for this and listening to Use Your Illusion 1 again for the first time in ages, I also listened to Use Your Illusion 2, and I still think that I actually ended up preferring that, and I still think that holds up really well. And you'd struggle to take, or I would struggle to take songs off it. I think it's a fantastic album. And my favourite Guns N' Roses album. Shock horror to many people. I think Use Your Illusion 2 just speaks that a little bit.
Okay.
Just a little.
So thank you for that, guys. And now we're going to talk about Guns N' Roses concerts. And it was quite fascinating, because I wasn't sure if you were joking at first, Paul, but you said that your mum's seen them in the Marquee in London in '87, yeah? In
'87, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So I remember she was, she went down to London with a couple of her friends to go and see them. I mean, I was only I think 12 or something at the time, so I don't really remember much about it. But I sort of asked her what she remembered of it, and she doesn't remember much. I don't know if that's just because of old age or because maybe she was out of it. I don't know. But I think that's where I got my love of music from. Was from my mum was a bit eclectic in her music. The other one that she was really into when I was young was Prince. Prince and Guns N' Roses. So she'd seen Prince a few times
Prince
before as well. So
yeah.
I've not seen them, but well, my mum has.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do.
Do you like
Prince
Prince as well, Paul?
Yeah, I mean, I grew up in a house with playing lots of Beatles, Prince, and Guns N' Roses and Gary Glitter. But probably better talk about Gary Glitter.
Won't go there. Won't go there.
But I mean, the Marquee show. That's like one of those legendary shows. One of those mythical shows in music history.
Yeah, I mean,
So
I guess
it's a shame she can't remember much
I just
about
remember it from my mum going down to it, and I sort of like, and I asked her about it, and I mean, I didn't really know that much about the show or anything. Yeah, she was like, because it was one of her school friends was really, really into them, so that's how she found out about it, and they went down, and yeah, she can't really remember anything about it, which is yeah. But maybe it's in the past. She doesn't want to talk.
Because that was her first visit to the UK, wasn't it? I think that's the first time they came to
were
the UK.
warming up, weren't they? That was basically getting there because it was a part of a world tour, wasn't it? That they were kicking off on that.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So they were legendary. And my favourite Guns N' Roses lineup anyway, but that for me the original. But we'll maybe come on to that actually at another time. We're talking about the concerts. So it's interesting. Three of us, myself, Stephen and Brian, we went to see Guns N' Roses in 1992, Use Your Illusion tour in Gateshead.
Yeah, that's right, we did.
And just wondered what everyone's memories of that were, because it's hard to believe it's almost 30 years ago now, 29 years ago. It's unbelievable.
I remember it being
what do you
great
guys
bill.
remember about it? Yeah, it was, wasn't it?
The support act with Faith No More and Soundgarden. I think that was it. Was there anybody else? No.
Yeah, I mean, how... No, that was it. I mean, how good is that?
Faith No More were
Guns N'
massive.
Roses, Faith No More and Soundgarden.
Faith No More were massive at the time. Soundgarden, I think, were just becoming big, but they weren't. They were just on the cusp of success. But
I think Bad Motorfinger just had come
they
out.
had Bad Motorfinger.
Jesus Christ Pose.
That's right.
Yeah,
that's right.
Yeah,
that's right. Yeah, so their next album was one that made them a big band, and Super Unknown, the next album. But they're obviously in rock circles, they were a big name. Soundgarden.
So I know that
did we drive
what
down
do you remember
there?
about the show, Brian?
Well, saying did we drive down?
I think we did.
Did you not drive?
I think we did. I think so. Yeah.
Sure, I think.
No, I think
we did. Yeah, I think I did.
No, I think we took the day off. We took the day off school, and because Robert, a friend of mine at the time, Robert Nelson, went with us, didn't he?
Oh, aye,
we got the bus. We got the bus.
We got the bus down.
Yeah, we met on Princes Street. I was wearing my Guns N' Roses shorts.
your tight Axel ones.
Nothing else.
So
yeah, that's right. We met on Princes Street. Nothing else. Yeah, that was
yes. I think we got we took the bus down. Do you know one of my memories of it is when we were playing? I don't know if you remember, and somebody threw like a bottle. It was just a plastic bottle, and they threw it at Duff. And Duff's like, if you think you're hard, come up here and do that.
Oh,
I just remember that.
Always drama.
I remember that.
Yeah. I mean, the memories I've got of it are, I think I remember Soundgarden being really good, and the two songs that I remember them doing. One of them was Outshined, and there's a bit in Outshined when it just cuts to the drums and a little bit of the bass guitar, and just that drum sound in a stadium. It was just tailor made for it. just remember that it was just very cool. And also when they done
Oh, yeah,
Jesus
I remember
Christ
that.
Yeah, it's
Pose,
great
which is
song.
an amazing song. And a couple of our friends had got up in each other's shoulders and were doing the Jesus Christ Pose. That was superb. I remember Faith No More just being really in your face, really entertaining. And I remember Guns N' Roses being a bit hit and miss actually on that show. I think this was in a period where they had about 8 million
I
people, it
know,
felt like,
yeah.
on the stage, rather than just the
Yeah.
core
Too
band
many
members.
costume changes
And
as
it
well.
was-
That's true. Yeah,
Yeah,
Axel was
it's a bit
behaving
too
like
much.
Madonna, wasn't he?
yeah,
Aye.
Yeah, because I was just looking at. So looking at Faith No More and Soundgarden were the two support acts for that tour. So you had
Yes.
Main Road, Wembley, and then Gateshead.
That's
Yes.
right, yeah. But,
and
yeah.
I mean, I remember with Guns N' Roses themselves, the set list was flawed in that. I mean, we're talking obviously about having a flow to a concert, and I found that there was periods of time where the energy levels really dipped because they wanted to do maybe slower songs that went on for a bit, and you found that the energy levels dipped. I know we'll come on to the concert the year after we went to, which was infinitely better. But I mean, the highlights were still brilliant, and I think the highlights were probably things like "Sweet Child of Mine," "Welcome to the Jungle," and "Paradise City." Probably, that's what I remember, song wise from it.
Yeah, I remember. I think what maybe spoiled it for me a wee bit was I think it was either the week before or a couple of weeks before. They played Paris and it was live, so you knew the whole set list, and it was pretty much, other than the fact that Lenny Kravitz, Asia, Aerosmith didn't come on.
No, there's
that
a
would
lineup.
mean I knew. Other than the fact that they didn't have these guests on, it was pretty much song for song the same. So you kind of knew, and it was like we were saying, Stephen, it was quite a bloated set list. You know, it was too. You know, that there was too many people on the stage, and that's why I was talking about the Marquee in '87, where Paul's mum went to see them. For me, that was the best lineup then, because it was just the guys in the band that were on, not all the hangers on and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
that's kind of. And Brian,
how
did
many
you?
people were on the stage for Guns N' Roses at that point? Then? I mean, I suppose there was a keyboard player and.
Was it Dizzy? He was called. Was it Dizzy Rascal? Not Dizzy Rascal.
Does he read?
Does he Rascal?
But yeah, there was a guy Dizzy,
Grime
wasn't there?
superstar Dizzy Rascal on keyboard.
Dizzy and then Tracy and Roberta, the girls. Remember the female singers? We got Tracy and Roberta.
Did you know them personally? Did you know them personally, Paul?
Yeah, it's just because when they did Knocking on Heaven's Door live, he'd always say, "I want you to sing along. I've got the lovely Tracy and Roberta, and I think you know the words." So he always used to, like at the Wembley Freddie Mercury tribute concert. Yeah, so there was quite a lot of people on stage.
I remember there being this kind of 6 members of the band at that point, plus the 2 female backing singers and a guy who's a
So no trumpet players and everything as well.
I think there might have been at that time, yeah.
I'm sure there's a
Kitchen
whole
Yeah,
brass section.
I think you're right. No,
For like Live and Let Die.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think you're right.
I think it was.
yeah,
Uh-huh.
yeah.
And I guess the other thing with that era as well, because like, I mean, I suppose from what I remember of like stadium gigs back then, is that you didn't have the screens or anything, so I always felt a bit cold. Really, you couldn't really see what was happening, and were there screens?
I think there was a screen.
Yeah.
I think there was.
Yeah, there was.
There were screens.
Yeah,
Yeah,
there was.
Can't remember.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was. Yeah.
Yeah, I
Because
think
I
from
look
the
at
late
the photo of
'80s,
it,
maybe
it's
that's
just
when the
got,
screens.
I think it's just got the posters down the side of Use Your Illusion on the stage.
I'm sure there was
Roses.
screens.
Yeah, they had the posters, but I'm sure there was screens.
Yeah, I think so.
I'm sure there was. Yeah, I think maybe the screens came on behind the Use Your Illusion backdrops or something. But yeah, could be wrong. Could be wrong. But yeah, it was a flawed performance.
But it was a good experience as well. It was good, one of these days you remember.
Yes, it was. Good laugh.
The whole day and stuff.
Don't think Gateshead Stadium was that great either.
No, it's not.
No, I know. It was used a lot in those days. Yeah.
Did you go to see did you go see anything else there at Gateshead? I mean, that was famous as like the northern version of the Donington Monsters of Rock type of gigs that would be up in there. So
no.
Yeah, Bon Jovi. Seen Bon Jovi
there, yeah.
95.
Yeah,
that was my one and only time. I think was Guns N' Roses.
Yeah, we saw them at Bon Jovi in '95. Yeah, it reminds me.
But yeah, it wasn't a particular stadium where I felt you got a great atmosphere.
I don't even know if they do gigs there anymore. But I remember in the '90s, the Don Valley Stadium was used a lot as well, wasn't it? Is it Sheffield?
Yeah.
I always think of them as quite similar because and then of course the following year, even though it was 2 years after the album had come out, they were still doing the Use Your Illusion tour. And this was in Milton Keynes. So it was just myself and Stephen and a couple of friends from school, Adam and Stuart, if you guys are out there listening. So we went down on the concert was on the Sunday. I think they played the Saturday as well, but we were going to the Sunday one, and we went down on the Saturday night. We left on a bus from the Playhouse. Stephen, you remember? It was about 11:30.
Had we not been to see Brian May playing at the Playhouse the night before? Because remember, I'm sure there was 3 concerts in the space of 8 days. There was Metallica at Milton Keynes, Guns N' Roses, Milton Keynes, and Brian May at Edinburgh Playhouse.
It was either I don't think it was the night before. It was either the week before or the week after.
Might have been, yeah.
It was one of them. But that was right. Yeah, getting there, and it was quite a long day because all the sort of waiting around and the support acts that day. Stephen, can you remember? Was it The Cult, Soul Asylum, and Blind Melon?
Soul Asylum
and Blind Melon.
Blind Melon, Soul Asylum,
and The Cult.
Really, I can't remember The Cult at all.
I think,
and I like The Cult.
I'm looking at the support act. You should have maybe been there on the Saturday, because on the Sunday, your support acts were Soul Asylum, Blind Melon, The Cult, and Ron Wood.
Who?
Ron Wood?
Ron Wood wasn't there.
That's what it says.
Unless he did a cameo, but
I don't remember him at all.
It's maybe saying he joined them on stage for Honky Tonk Women.
Oh, Ronnie Wood.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, that's right. He done Honky Tonk Women. Yes. That's good. But The Cult, I can't believe I can't remember The Cult. I do like The Cult. I can't remember a thing about.
I remember them playing Little Devil. Playing that was good. But yeah, it's quite a good venue. Obviously quite a few acts had played there. I don't think it's still used as much now, or certainly in the recent years.
Tell us, Paul, the pizza story.
Yeah, this is good. Classic. So basically, my friend Adam, he had when Axl was on stage, he had a pizza delivered. So he ate some of it and he threw the rest of it into the crowd in the box. And during the concert, I think me and Stephen got separated from my friend Adam and Stuart. And he caught Axl's pizza. And for years, I think he must have kept it for about 10 or 15 years. He kept it in his freezer. Axl's pizza, that's a true story. And so he kept the box and the pizza. And that's just one of his claims to fame.
And he used the DNA from Axl to clone him, and that clone version is currently going through anger management classes. But no, my thought. I was going to say my thoughts on the day were that, and I feel sorry for you, Brian, because the show at Milton Keynes Bowl, I think I really enjoy Milton Keynes Bowl as a venue. I think you always
Yeah.
got a good atmosphere there. It's a really good venue, and the show in '93 was one of my favourite concerts. It was a million times better than the Gateshead one
Better
because
setup.
for these reasons. Well, yeah, it was just the band on stage, no one else. Izzy Stradlin had come back because Gilby Clarke
He hurt his arm or
had
something.
fractured his wrist, I
Yeah.
think. So I think Izzy Stradlin had come back just for these shows. So I think that maybe gave the band that little bit of extra energy as well because he was back and everyone was on their best behaviour. So yeah, you just had the band. Izzy was back. The set list was much stronger. It was more focused on the kind of rock side of things, just putting on a good rock show. A lot of the longer and slower songs were taken out of it, and basically they cut the crap.
Yeah,
It was just this is what I wanted from them in '92. A great Guns N' Roses concert. Just give me a good rock and roll show, and that's what I got in '93, and it's still one of my favourite concerts. And yeah, it was great when Ronnie Wood came on from the Rolling
I
Stones to
forgot about
Talk
that,
Women
actually. Yeah.
near the end. Yeah, brilliant.
So here's something
yeah,
for you.
I loved it. Loved it.
Right, so it's interesting looking at. So if you look at setlist.fm, it's got the set list for Milton Keynes and Gateshead. So interesting, the breakdown for Gateshead. You had 6 songs from Appetite for Destruction. You had 4 songs from Use Your Illusion 1. You had 4 covers, 2 solos, 2 songs from Use Your Illusion 2, and 1 song from Guns N' Roses Lies. On Milton Keynes, you had 7 songs from Appetite for Destruction, 6 covers, 4 songs from Use Your Illusion 1 instead of 6. So same amount, 4 songs. Guns N' Roses Lies had 2, solos 2, and Use Your Illusion 2, 1 song. So the Milton Keynes one, there was only 5 songs from Use Your Illusion 1 and 2, and there was 6 songs from Use Your Illusion 1 and 2 at Gateshead.
But yeah,
There you go.
But there was a nice bit in the middle of it when they brought out like a sofa. Remember, Stephen? And they sort of did like,
yeah,
and it was just different because it felt like the previous year they were just taking themselves far too seriously. You know, like having everybody on the stage. It was just, whereas this felt more. It was almost like because I think they'd heard about the kind of criticisms, and I wonder if this was a reaction to the criticisms of the previous year, and it just seemed it seemed like they were enjoying themselves more as well.
Yeah, and reconnecting with the audience. Everybody was bought into it at that show. Everybody was into it. The energy levels were high. There was a good connection between the band and the audience. And I think you're right, Paul. You could tell they were having a good time as well. And that kind of acoustic type set in the middle was brilliant. Absolutely.
They did Imagine, didn't they? They did Imagine.
Yeah. Yep. And now, Paul, you've got the set list. Did they do I Used to Love Her, but I Had to Kill Her? Was that one of the acoustic ones? I can't remember now.
Milton Keynes? Yeah, I Used to Love Her.
Oh, it was there, right?
Number 10,
yeah.
Yeah,
You're Crazy.
I think they've done
and
Patience in that. You're Crazy, yes, Patience. Yeah, it was brilliant. The acoustic bit was superb. And Paradise City, I think they finished with. Is that right?
Then you had Dead Flowers and Knocking on Heaven's Door.
Yeah, it was brilliant.
Paradise City was.
So Brian, I'm sorry. Yes, that was amazing. So Brian, I'm sorry you picked the wrong year. Mind you, got to Metallica the weekend
Thanks
after
for that.
Milton Keynes.
That was at Milton Keynes as well. That
Exactly.
when
yeah.
we were, I was just
Not
going
all
to say
bad,
when
then.
we were, just going to say when we were getting the bus home, it was quite funny because when we just got in, there was people handing out leaflets already saying, "Do you want a copy of this concert?" It can't have been leaflets for it but basically it was somebody's details saying they've contact us at this address if you want a copy of this concert. So I remember that was quite funny. And then when we got home, I was just going to say what was quite funny, it was a Monday morning, and my friend Adam, he actually, because we were 16 at the time when we were doing our exams, Adam actually went back and did his exam that morning.
Did he pass?
I don't think he did. I don't know. Maybe it was Axel's pizza that put him off. But yeah, he just
So
like,
did you-
I remember we got the bus and he just went straight to school.
So did you go down in a day then? Did you go down in the morning to Milton Keynes and then watch the concert and then come back on
Overnight,
the bus straight after?
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah,
And then he went for his exam.
that's dedication.
And would you do that again now?
No,
Yes,
I wouldn't.
No.
because it's still a laugh. That's all. See, for me, it's all part of the experience. I mean, I won't spoil it because I think when we do our Metallica show, we'll talk about times we've seen them live. But I mean, the bus to Milton
Jeff,
Keynes
the-
in '93
Jeff, the bus
to see
organizer.
Metallica going down. Yeah, that was a literal riot. It was hysterical. I've never seen as many drunk people in my life, all stuck on a bus. You know, people rolling up and down the aisle. And that was just after we left Edinburgh. We still had 7 hours to drive.
And when you got on the bus for Guns N' Roses, did it stop
They'd all
anywhere?
been
Was it
drinking
straight there?
since 5 a.m. or something.
Yeah. At the Black Bull pub, wasn't it? Paul,
Black
they
Bull.
did stop at various points, yeah. But, it's all part of the experience. But I think,
The organizer getting carried off the bus.
this day and age. Yeah, no, I don't know if he even saw the show. And I think this day and age, if I was going down to like St Milton Keynes, I'd probably get the train or get a plane and
Yeah.
stay over
Yeah, you'd stay over now, wouldn't you?
rather than do the bus. Yeah, I'd stay over now, definitely. And I think because it's obviously just outside London, maybe look at a cheap plane ticket down there. Or the train,
Did
actually.
we not
Train,
stop at have a
but
McDonald's at like 6 a.m. when we got off the bus down? Yeah,
I think so, yeah.
And I'm sure you know how some like shops on a Sunday morning they have the papers and the milk outside. I'm sure Adam took a couple of rolls right outside one of these shops, just helped himself.
Adam's covering himself in glory
I
here,
know,
isn't
no,
he?
he's a really
Flunk,
he's a really good guy.
stealing
Actually,
roles,
it's just funny.
flunking
look back.
exams, stealing Axel's DNA.
I mean, it's okay. He's no longer with us, so you can't, he can't come back. He can't do anything about it. He's gone, isn't he? I mean, the way you're talking about him, he's no longer with us.
He's very much with us. He'll always be in our hearts.
I thought the way you were talking about him was dead.
And here he is, our special guest, Adam.
Yeah. Oh. So and also to say, that the forthcoming Guns N' Roses concert. So we were originally supposed to go. I think it was originally scheduled for last June 2020 for the reunion show at Glasgow Green. But because of the whole COVID thing, it's been rescheduled for this year, same time. I doubt it'll go ahead, I have to say. But you never know. I very much doubt it'll. And it might be rescheduled for 2022. But when it does happen...
Will it still be good then?
So there's three of us here that are going to see it. When it does happen, what are you most looking forward to seeing? Considering it's almost 30 years ago since we last saw them, I suppose. What are you looking forward to seeing?
Be interesting to just see the band back together, I think. See what they're like with Axel, Duff and Slash. And who else is Izzy's not in the band, is he?
No.
I'm not too sure.
No.
I don't think so.
No.
It's not Gilby either, though. It's not
I don't know
him
who's
either.
on. No, it's not. I think it's only... I think it's Matt Sorum, Axel, Duff, Slash. I think Dizzy.
I think
Is Dizzy
Dizzy's
not
back.
there
Yeah.
as well?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. So I don't know
Dizzy
who's on
Rascal.
rhythm guitar. Dizzy Rascal, yeah.
So looking at it there,
Heavy is the crown.
you've got Dizzy Reed, Richard Fortus, Duff McKagan, Axl Rose, Slash, Melissa Reese, and Frank Ferrer.
That's right. It's not. It's a different drummer. It's not the. Yeah.
Is
He's
it
not.
really?
He's not back.
Did not know that.
Actually
That's
wish,
interesting.
because I think initially they were going to bring the original lineup back because it would have been good to. I always preferred Steven Adler as a drummer.
Oh yeah.
Matt Sorum technically was a better drummer, but I just liked Steven Adler. The feel, it was more simple, but I don't know. I just liked him better. So I was hoping that he would be in the lineup, but he's not, unfortunately. But it'll be good. It'll be interesting to see them again. See if Axel can fit into his shorts, cycling shorts.
Well, I think what's I mean, I think it sort of shows the difference now with bands how because they've not released any new material, have they? So I think they've spoken about trying to record stuff, but they've not released anything. But whereas before you'd release an album and you tour on the back
That's
of it,
right,
like
exactly,
Use Your
yeah.
Illusion. Whereas now you just go out and tour. You don't even need an album now to go out and tour anymore.
I think for me, Guns N' Roses is in a lot of ways a real lost opportunity because I think they were a fantastic band and so talented, and I think it's a real shame that they never really followed up Use Your Illusion. I know they had the Spaghetti Incident, but I think it's just such a missed opportunity that where they could have gone after that.
Do you know what? Yeah.
Are you forgetting
didn't
about
do it.
Chinese
And from-
democracy?
Oh, sorry. I keep forgetting about that masterpiece of theirs that came out 50 years after.
classic.
Cost about $15
Use Your
million
Illusion.
to make.
Yeah. I know. Basically an Axl solo album. And the Guns. Well, there's a funny story. Obviously, it was released under the Guns N' Roses name. Do you know how he ended up owning the Guns N' Roses name?
Was it Slash was in debt or
I read.
something, and he was it some no?
No, it was in
that's
Duff
right, it's
McKagan's
so easy,
autobiography. Before they were due to go on stage, it was a stadium show. I think he had said to Slash and Duff, right. I think he had Axl had his lawyer and say, right, yeah. Axl says he's not going to go and do the show unless you sign over the naming rights of the band to him. Right. So that's what he did before a show. Got his lawyer to do that. So Duff and Slash felt pressured into signing that away. But yeah, no, I think for the Glasgow show, hopefully it'll go ahead. I'm just expecting, obviously, a bit of a greatest hits show. I think it'll just be a blast. I think they won't be taking themselves too seriously. I think they'll put on a good show. The audience will be, I think, in the right frame of mind for it, and it'll just be a blast. I hope so, anyway.
And it'll be interesting because it's the first. Although they have played in Scotland before, but it was kind of post the lineup that we know. It was after, it was basically the Axl show. So it'll be the first time really that the core band members will be there. I think, like when I look back at Guns N' Roses, I think the problem was they left it too long after Appetite for Destruction. And I think by the time Use Your Illusion came out, music had changed, and I think it sounded very, like I've seen before, very 80s, and it was grunge came in, and it just made a lot of that kind of obsolete or dated,
Yeah, I mean, I think that, even if you listen back to, it's always interesting watching, because I always remember Appetite for Destruction being played in the house when I was growing up, but I didn't actually really know what they looked like.
Yeah.
Because like you didn't have like videos or anything. And when I saw them for the first time properly, I was like, oh, they looked nothing like what I thought they would do, because I thought they were a bit more of a, they almost seemed a bit like, not like Bon Jovi, but a bit of that glam metal sort
Hair metal,
of,
yeah.
hair metal look, when they didn't really sound like that. And I think that's the thing, like you're saying, when Appetite for Destruction came out in 1991. I mean, I think
Use
music
Your
was
Illusion, you
going
mean?
through a big change.
Yeah,
Sorry,
Use
Use
Your-
Your Illusion.
yeah.
Sorry, when
Yeah.
that came out, music was going through a big change.
That's right.
And yeah, it just sort of felt a bit. I mean, it was really big at the time. I remember it being like a massive deal. But
Oh yeah, definitely.
yeah, kind of does seem a bit dated, really, in a way, almost, especially the way they looked.
And
I mean, I
what's-
think the November Rain video is like if you want to show kids what Guns N' Roses were, that's the video to look at. It's total excess.
cost
and
about $10 million
extravagant.
to make that, or something crazy. And was it not Axel's priest was in it and said, "Oh, it was his real priest," and he was in the video as well.
And
I was going to say, but coming back to the drummer, but Paul, you were saying about how you preferred Steven Adler. I read a thing where it said Izzy would have preferred to have kept Steven Adler in the group because he says that when he was in it, although he wasn't technically the greatest drummer, there had a certain groove
Definitely.
when he was the drummer, and that when he was gone, it just never felt the same to him. Just never had that same groove. He found it really hard playing. I think obviously when Matt Sorum came in, just, the dynamic he felt wasn't the same.
Because I think it's still Steven Adler plays drums on Civil War, because that was recorded a wee bit before. So
That's right.
He did that. And it's funny because grunge came in, and what you found is a lot of the rock bands suddenly got their hair cut short. You know, like Def Leppard and Bon Jovi, from having the long hair, suddenly got their hair cut short, like about a year later after 92 or 93, because it wasn't cool anymore. Our next podcast that we're going to be doing in tune, Trimming the Fat Off, is U2's Pop album. So that's the next album that we're going to be doing. And you can listen to our show on Spotify and follow us, and the same for YouTube and Anchor, where you can listen and leave us voicemail. You can contact us via email at trimmingthemusicfat@gmail.com, and our website is www.trimmingthefat.com. Head to the forums on the website to discuss the albums that we've been trimming and what albums you'd like to see us trim in the future. Finally, we're on social media now, so you can head over to Facebook and Instagram to see what's happening. So thank you for listening today. Goodbye.
bye.
Bye. Welcome back, Paul Murphy and Brian Borthwick. How are you today?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you. Thanks for inviting
We'll
me.
do that again. It just sounded like a robot. Welcome back, Paul
Welcome back,
Murphy.
Brian
How are
Murphy.
you?
Brian
Borthwick.
Borthwick. How
I
are
am
How
well,
are-
thank you. Well, I
Are
am your
you well?
host.